there's a general lack of appreciation of how difficult and challenging these problems are. And to think that, by a snap of a finger or a line of code, the work that we need to do to develop these products to the level they need to really bring a level of safety that's measurable, sustainable, and sufficient is really a naivety on their half.
The world around us is changing faster than ever before. Ideas once only imagined in science fiction are becoming a reality. Throughout the course of our amazing 23-episode season, we'll speak to some of the greatest minds in robotics and artificial intelligence to discuss the groundbreaking work that's fueling it all. I'm your host, Ryan Marine. Join me and my co-host, Paul Mitchell, the president of the Indy Autonomous Challenge, and see why we call this the Inside Track. A few things come to mind when people picture the Hawaiian Islands: stunning views, incredible surfing, delicious coffee, and ocean as far as the eye can see. But did you know that a small robotics and engineering team at the University of Hawaii Manoa has been not only competing at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, but also has been beating some of the most advanced engineering teams in the world? Today on the Inside Track, we sit down with Gary Passon, the AI Racing Tech Team Principal and leader for the University of Hawaii, to discuss how a school known for students specializing in oceanography is now leading in robotics and engineering. Gary gives us insight into what makes the IAC so much more than great code and how this team put the University of Hawaii on the global stage. Super interested in hearing a little bit more about your background and how you got into this role. You come at this from a different perspective than most, but first, I should say congratulations. Another podium finish for you and the team. You were second in the competition at Texas in November of 2022, then in early 2023, third place in Las Vegas. The team seems to really be hitting its stride.
Yeah, Ryan, we're just very excited to continue to build on the program that we started 3 years ago. We knew this was going to be a long-term program and that we would need to evolve not only the team, but the software stack to come up and be able to compete with the Europeans. I mean, those guys bring an amazing capability and experience to the table, and we're proud to be on that podium with them 2 times in a row now, but we still think there's some place yet to go, and that would be at the top of it. So we'll continue to work on that.
You're quite right that the European universities have been at the forefront of this to this point, and I'm prepared to be told I'm wrong with this, but institutionally, it does seem like the way that they go about their universities and their research is perhaps a little bit different than most approaches you see from American universities. Is that correct? And what kind of challenges come with that, if my assumption is on point?
Well, you're exactly right on. There's probably 2 main factors that to date have given them the edge, but I think that edge is eroding. The first is that they were the early participants in a competition called RoboCar,
Yep.
Which was an NVIDIA and otherwise sponsored program for fully autonomous race cars, primarily situated out of Europe, although it did do some racing here in the United States. And that allowed them to get a head start in developing their stack for the specific application. So that was certainly an advantage, but not an enduring advantage, because obviously we're closing the gap. The second is that the governments in Europe tend to financially support educational institutes that are specialist. And so in the cases, for all 3 cases for the European teams, and no disrespect, I wish we were lucky enough to get that same kind of funding opportunities, but they get a continuing annual budget, which allows them to have a number of PhDs, pre and post. And by doing that, they're able to continue to evolve over a long term, a very difficult and sophisticated problem, which this is.
Yeah.
This is a very, very, very challenging thing, but something that I think is very important to ultimately to the safety of autonomous vehicles on the road.
By contrast, what constitutes your team? What are you working with?
But by contrast, we're and I think this is somewhat true for most of the most of the American teams, but not all of them. We are actually an amalgamation of the University of Hawaii as the prime university, supported by University of California, San Diego, University of California, Berkeley, and this year we brought in Carnegie Mellon University. So by being able to aggregate the graduate programs and the undergraduate programs for all four universities, we're able to put together a group of not only the talent that we're looking for, but also the manpower that we're looking for to do these kinds of problems. It's not something that a programmer in a back room is going to do. This is clearly a big program.
What has led you to this point? And specifically, I bring this up because I have to believe you come to be a university professor in a much different way than most. So let's go back to the beginning, because I think the beginning explains a great deal of how we got to where we are today.
Yeah, it's I'm not sure which is the chicken and which is the egg here, but my background is having been born and raised in Indiana, comes up through go-karts. And of course, Indiana, being the home of the Indianapolis 500, is the the most important, arguably, race in the United States. So everybody in Indiana is has a lot of race in their blood. And I was very lucky to be successful in go-karting, move then into amateur racing, then move into semi-professional racing, and ultimately was a professional race car driver for a short period of time. So I was very lucky to be, or unlucky, depending on how you want to look at it, to be of the same era as Bobby Unser Jr., Al Unser Jr., Mario Andretti Jr., Bobby Rahal. Yeah. All those drivers came up in the same era of wheel to wheel, both USAC racing in those days for the mini Indies or Formula Atlantics or other series and that stuff. So we ran around nose to tail a lot during those years, and some of those guys went on to full Indianapolis careers. My destiny was not that. I was always, I always had at my soul an engineering interest. Maybe me, Mark Donahue was probably, for those little bit older people out there.
Hey,
the Mark Donahue was.
Don't give up on the youth here. I'm 34, and I know about the unfair advantage in Mark Donahue. So.
Very good. Now, but not a lot of 30. Sub 30s. We'll go.
Sure.
I'll give you an edge.
I'll own that.
Is familiar with Mark and also Bruce McLaren. So I always saw the engineering side, maybe even a little bit more my level of interest than even the driving side.
Yeah, both of them met untimely ends in race cars, so there was a dangerous time to be doing that particular profession, and perhaps pursuing the engineering had a bit of a longer runway for you.
I think it did. I'm not sure that was in the top of the, because you shouldn't drive race cars at the limit if you consider what can happen, too fully. It was a combination, I think, of a recognition that those were dangerous times, and I did have a friend of mine die in a race car, and so that that probably had an impact on me, as well as the just the fact that I found that racing against the families of Indianapolis car drivers meant that when it came time to divide up sponsorships and those kinds of things, they had a tendency to go with name and brand, and maybe a little less with some upstart that was more interested in the anti-roll bar rate at the rear of the car than maybe they were in being the race car driver.
How, though, then did these experiences early in your life almost come full circle to put you in this position where you're working on an Indy Lights, Indy Next, Mini Indy, whatever you want to call it, chassis, and the technology that you're honing has safety in mind, safety for the road, safety for racing drivers as well. It seems to me that all of your personal experiences have flowed into this in an almost perfect manner.
I mean, there is a serendipity here that's really hard to deny. I have to agree with that. After after I left the racing world and went on to my engineering life. I actually went into focused on computer science, focused on artificial intelligence. Came out of the graduate programs interested in being in computer science. Had an excellent career through most of my life as in industry, managing, running, and building products based on software. And then was blessed to be in a financial and and an opportunity to retire 10 years ago early, and moved to Maui, which is how I ended up at the University of Hawaii. But soon felt that I was not getting the kind of life experience I wanted in terms of continuing to build and do something. In recognizing that, I went to the university and asked them to let me participate as a mentor or as a lecturer or in some way, bring my interest to the table. And what we settled on, amazingly enough, long before even the IAC was announced, was an autonomous vehicle technology program. So again, the serendipity of building off of my interest in racing and vehicles. So we built early Jetson scale racing AI little carts, and then went to fifth scale, then went to autonomous racing go-karts. And it was while we were designing and building and working with students in Hawaii on that program that IAC announced this program, the Autonomous Challenge for the full-scale cars. They put out a sort of an RFP, but they put out a call to universities to say, hey, who wants to participate, who can participate in something like this? Went to the dean, went to the engineering department heads and said, we're probably way over our head to even talk about participating in this, but what the heck? It's a great experience. We're doing something with go-karts. The go-kart race was at Purdue in Indiana.
Yes.
So therefore, we were already scheduled to be a part of developing the logistics to move back and forth for that anyway. And they said, well, what the heck, it's your time. If you want to steer that way, go that way. So we went that way. And in doing so, participated in a year-long simulation series of races for the 41 universities, and we consistently finished in the top 6 to 8th position, which again I think was probably a story that will repeat a few times, hopefully, for us. And that is that nobody expected us to be a contender. Nobody expected, certainly the University of Hawaii, to be developing autonomous racing stacks at the kind of level to compete with these same universities we compete with today,
right,
in a simulation series. And so when it came time to, invite the top 10 teams, we were an obvious choice to be invited. So I went back again, and I said, well, we probably are way in over our head, but
it's a theme.
It's a great experience, and I think we should try to do this. And again, got support from the university. I want to thank the folks at University of Hawaii. They've been huge supporters of us. We certainly don't have the financial wherewithal of most of these other schools, but that's okay. What we have is a lot of heart and a lot of aloha, and a team that has really enjoys the opportunity to be here.
What has been the benefit for the university?
From what I hear from the folks that that take a look at how do you evolve the strategic program for University of Hawaii, it has helped put University of Hawaii into one of the top 10 or 15 engineering possible schools for people to take a look at. So we were, to be honest, University of Hawaii was not considered we were considered maybe a middle tier engineering school. I think now some people look at what we're doing and looking at not only this program, it turned out that this was a perfect storm of some other programs at the University of Hawaii, particularly in the marine area. As you might guess,
yes,
being stuck in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, we have a lot of doctoral programs and master's students that are very interested in autonomy above and below the water. So we kind of are the third leg of the autonomy stool for University of Hawaii, and that's really helped put us on the map, frankly.
Coming at this from traditional motorsports background, to what extent has that informed your decisions in your role and helped to propel this program perhaps beyond the expectations of many on the outside?
Certainly, having been there, done that, always is a huge benefit for for any program, and having been involved in professional racing and understanding the logistics, the scheduling, the intensity of work. Meeting a schedule is tough anyway, under any circumstances. Meeting a schedule in a sports league of anything, whether it's football, basketball, racing, is a total another level. There is no, well, I'll get you that tomorrow, when the event is today.
That's right.
So I think that's been really that's really helped us a lot in that we brought forth that discipline, recognized that, educated the students to the absolute necessity of that, which I think really is going to make them even better people out in the industry, because they're going to set, when schedules get done and programs get developed and that kind of stuff, they're going to understand the time and trade-offs that have to be made, because we can't do everything. We have to do just as much as we can, and the most important things that we can in the time frame we've got. And that kind of discipline just doesn't come historically.
To that point, my supposition is many of your students did not come to this with a motorsports background or even a sporting background necessarily. It was probably the AI component that initially caught their attention. So I'm curious to what degree they have a new appreciation for sports generally, motorsports specifically, and then to build on what you were saying before, the lessons that maybe uniquely come from participating in such an environment. How does that then prepare them in a way that that students who had not had this experience would be lacking?
Well, I have a great little story on that. Just in the last few weeks, one of our vehicle dynamics engineers, who comes from a background of, had no background in racing, no background, just really wanted to, but kind of likes autos,
Sure.
and wanted to do something with it. His work and the paper that he's helped develop got him an offer with Mercedes Formula One team.
Wow.
So I don't know if he's going to take it. So Mercedes, I can't tell you, but I can say that I think that just demonstrates the clearly the fact that working on these kinds of programs, seeing the way we run our pits, the way that the telemetry requirements, data requirements, the kinds of things that the real top level racing teams need to have to be successful, and that we've implemented on a smaller scale. It just makes these kids so excited, and it's all obviously making them very marketable.
The last angle of discussion that I'm interested in, again, coming from your background, which is different. I'm sure you hear some of the same things I do working in traditional motorsport. There is some hesitancy about AI and autonomy when it comes to racing as an entity, as a sport. How do you answer those critics? And do you think what we've seen from the IAC so far has answered those critics, and perhaps also provided a glimpse into the degree in which this technology you're working on hands-on right now could trickle down and benefit racing in a really tangible way?
Yeah, I think to the detractors of autonomous racing and the sum for autonomy onto the street.
Sure.
I think that there's a general lack of appreciation of how difficult and challenging these problems are, and to think that by a snap of a finger or a line of code, the work that we need to do to develop these products to the level they need to really bring a level of safety that's measurable, sustainable, and sufficient. Is really a naivety on their half. We're on a long march. if you go back to the Indianapolis 500 in the very first days, they were excited about the fact that somebody held a piece of broken mirror up and realized that rear view mirrors was a good thing.
Right.
So I'm sorry, maybe it's going to take us a little time to get to where we need to be, but I think we're going to add value, not only to human-driven racing, because I think that, as a co-pilot, some of the work that we're doing can make racing safer. Because it can help take control in certain circumstances where the human maybe isn't the most capable solution space, and I know that's going to happen on the street. I just the fact that we have to make decisions at 200 miles an hour, that we have to make decisions 100 times a second, and we have to make the right decision, or in fact what we're doing can cause a lot of physical damage to a race car. Maybe no humans get involved, but it's not cheap in racing. It gives us the opportunity to test some ideas, and uniquely bring some solutions to the table.
Historically, racing has been the ultimate proving ground for automotive. We've seen less of that, it seems, in recent decades. Rules are very strict. There's not much innovation that is permitted in many series globally. But this strikes me as a return to the roots of the sport. This is why people race cars in those early days, right?
I think that's right, and to be honest, that's one of the drivers that brought me out of retirement and sends me around the United States multiple times a year, with 10 or 20 students working night and day to try to do something, is because I think this is a new era of innovation for racing, and we're at the forefront of it. And I tell that to the kids all the time, that this is one of those points in your life you're going to look back to and say, I was part of that, and I've been lucky to have that happen multiple times in my career. And so I'm confident this is another one.
So in the head-to-head competitions we're seeing now in IAC, we talk a lot about each team has a unique solution to the same problem. When you're encountering this yourself, are there surprises that you see, teams taking a tack that you wouldn't have thought of before? Are there frustrations that come along with this? What has that experience been like as you see the 8-9 teams branch off in their unique direction?
Well, there's a lot of commonality and there's a lot of differences. In the commonality, there's elements of we have to perceive. We have to plan. We have to control. So there's at certain levels there's a lot of commonality. There may be different code spaces to implement them, but there's similarities. What I find exciting about any time of innovation, and I happen to be in the distributed systems group that helped develop the Ethernet program, and help bring some of the internet to the current level it's at today. Times of great innovation are times of great observation. And so, yes, we observe those other teams very closely, and we, as much as possible, and is still managing to do what we need to do to be successful, try to understand what we think they're thinking and why they're thinking that. And then we try to test our own decisions against those. And if something seems like it's a better solution or a better direction or method, then we're headed that direction. Because we want to build the best thing, the best tool for this job that we can. So maybe an example of that would be in path planning, because that's a very sophisticated challenge. And that is, you've now identified not only your location, but you've identified the location of the competitor's car. We call them bogies. And in doing so, we have to now plan a path around them. Our job is to pass them. It's not to follow them. It's to get around them. It's a competition. That's why we're here for it. And so there's been a lot of really interesting innovation in that. One of the approaches we took initially, and I don't think I'm giving away big secrets here, I hope not, was to create a large number of trajectory lines and then be able to switch quickly between them and safely. And so it's sort of a pre-processed view of the universe, which on a racetrack is doable because it's a finite track. As we've evolved, we realized that we can use less of those lines and make more of those decisions in a dynamic space.
It's exactly what we were looking for.
Good.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We'll wish you safe travels.
Thank you.
And hope to see you here down the road.
All right. We'll see you then.
Thanks for joining us this week on The Inside Track. That was Gary Passon, the AI Racing Tech Team Principal and Leader at the University of Hawaii Manoa, giving us a behind-the-scenes look at the incredible levels of innovation being explored way out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. I'm your host, Ryan Marine. Join us next time to hear from Professor Sergio Savarese of the Polytechnic University of Milan. Sergio has authored over 500 publications focusing on autonomous technology and is considered by many to be the grandfather of the modern autonomous revolution.